Thank you very much, Pastor, for this question. I would like to take it like answering association and NGO in one phase, and then talking about foundation and the companies in another phase.
Wow.
Association and NGO are just like small brother and big brother. All of them are non-for-profit organizations. So let's say somebody wants to do a community impact, somebody wants to do something that will impact the community, maybe through environment, maybe through fighting gender-based violence or something. He will have to register his activity as an association. This is done at the prefectural authority. So many associations that we have in Cameroon that call themselves NGO are not actually NGOs. They are actually associations. So if you carry out your activities as an association for 3 years, you can then gather your activity and take your report to MINAT for them to give you an NGO status. So that's why I said the NGO is like the big brother of an association. So you start as an association, and after 3 years, you then apply to have an NGO status. Now, coming to foundation. Foundation is so similar with associations and NGOs, but the foundation is an organization that is created with money. As a foundation can rather support the activities of an NGO or an association. So if somebody has money and wants to impact the community, he can create an association, and he can create a foundation, and then call associations or NGOs to apply for programs so that he can finance those programs for associations and NGOs to impact the society. And also, why NGOs and associations are regulated by the 1990 law, a foundation is regulated by the 1999 law. And the association is, the right to operate as an association is granted by the SDO. The right to operate as an NGO is granted by the Minister of Territorial Administration, but the right to operate as a foundation is granted by the decree of the President of the Republic. And therefore, for you to start a foundation, you must show proof of financial viability. In practice in Cameroon, for you to start a foundation, you should have at least 10 million because you are supposed to finance activities. And now a company is a business venture, and a company is totally different from an association, from an NGO, from a foundation, because while these three are for non-profit, a company is a profit-making organization. And the OHADA gives us a vast array of different types of companies that somebody can venture into. For the purpose of this discussion, we are just going to group it into two. OHADA talks about registered companies as well as unregistered companies. Registered companies are those companies that have a separate identity from their members. And we have two types: the public limited company, what in French we refer to as Société Anonyme, as well as the private limited company, what we refer to in French as Société à responsabilité limitée. These are companies where, if it is registered as such, the identity of the person or the persons registered the company, who registered the company, is distinguished from the company itself. On the other hand, we have unregistered companies where we can talk about. I'll give just one example that is so popular: the entreprise, the enterprise. So these are the kinds of companies that somebody can create. There are many other types of unregistered companies, the de facto company, joint ventures, and stuff like that. But I must sound here very clear that most people, I always advise people to go for a SAR, because a SAR can be operated with limited amount of money, and the advantage with a SAR is that a SAR can be inherited and it continues after the person dies. But an enterprise dies with the owner. And I think we are going to have time to talk about this in subsequent programs.
Wow.